Hey guys, and welcome back to Module 3 of our Personal Development Workshop here at Dublin Academy of Education. I'm here again, David Lewis, with Chris Lauder, the founder, and my co-teacher in this module here. So Module 3 is how to develop habits that will prime you for success. So all our notes, again, they're available for download in the link underneath there. We really strongly urge that as you're listening to this, you're working through the notes with us. So it's like an at-home workshop, class, tutorial for you to go through and get the benefits of being in the club without actually being able to, if you're not able to actually attend the club itself. Okay, so the first two modules, what we actually talked about, just to remind you again, is first one we were talking about goals and vision, and we had this kind of real macro picture, and then we in module 2 broke it down and we started talking about our routines and our morning routines specifically, and that branched off into like from what you do in the morning to actually winning the day and actually just having something done before you actually start it. So really actually planning out your term or your week or your day. So we automatically, we really actually just focus on the day. But you can kind of see from the trend of this, we're going from the big macro down into a small microwave affecting who you are. And today, in my personal opinion, is going to be the most powerful idea. Today, as we are talking about habits, we're talking about things that we can actually enact right now. So as we always have, we need outcomes of something. There always has to be a why behind why we're talking about something or why we're doing it. We have 3 outcomes to today's session on page 2 of your notes there. So the 3 outcomes are, first of all, it says to understand what habits are. Because actually knowing what a habit is, like having a background to it, is going to enable you to affect change or actually notice what habits that you currently have. So it's really important to actually understand what a habit is. Okay, next of all, we're going to discuss, and we want you to understand something that's known as the habit loop. So what causes you to have a certain habit? What causes you to do certain things? And it's actually very, very, very simple. And you will see that, oh my God, without even noticing it, you've been doing things subconsciously for the last 16, 17, 18 years of your life. And then part 3, I'd put a star beside this. This is the most important thing. We know action is very, very, like it's crucial to any change. So the first 2 things, again, they're just understanding. But part 3 is what's actually going to change your life for the better. It's actually being able to use the 4 laws of behavior change. So we're going to teach you these 4 laws, but we're actually going to show you how to affect a change in your habits. Okay, so they're the 3 outcomes today. So at the end of this workshop, that's what we need you to have. Underneath there's a really, really good quote from a man called James Clear, who Chris will talk about later on. It says, success is the product of daily habits. Now, success means like the ultimate outcome for what you want, achieving your goal or achieving what you wanted to achieve over the last 2 weeks, what we've discussed. But it's a product of your daily habits, not a once-in-a-lifetime transformation. Okay, so it's what you do every day. Something we've had over the last 2 weeks, you are what you do every day. And that's why habits are ultimately the most successful thing in transforming you as a person. Okay, if you actually go over to page 3 there, we've got a picture of, let's just call him Johnny here, and how the exact same person can be dramatically different and show up dramatically different to any situation they find themselves in based on their habits. And it's a bit of maybe a crude diagram there, but it's fully accurate. I think that's massively powerful. It shows the dramatic shift that you can have positively or negatively in your life depending on certain habits that you have. And it gives you some examples. But first things first, what is a habit? Okay, and if you Google this, there's a few different ways that you could probably look at this, but the way that I personally like and the way that we're going to use here is, and I implore you to take this down underneath here, a habit is a behavior. So first of all, a habit is a behavior that has been repeated enough times so that it becomes automatic. So a habit is a behavior that has been repeated enough times so that it becomes automatic. Okay, so we actually had in the Personal Development Club a diagram, and this diagram actually alluded to the fact that over time, a lot of people think that habits become habits over time, but we actually disagree with that. We think habits become a habit or become automatic because of repetitions. Like, because if you start learning to tie your shoe, for example, it doesn't take 2 years to learn to tie your shoe. It takes 100 repetitions. Now, potentially it gets associated with time because you associate those repetitions with time. Maybe it might be a daily practice or something like that. But the more repetitions you do, the more subconscious it becomes. So then it actually becomes automatic. You hit this threshold, this action line. So the thing that you're actually doing becomes an automatic behavior. You don't have to think about it. It takes very little energy for you actually to do in your life. Okay, so a habit, again, once more, is a behavior that has been repeated enough times so that it becomes automatic. Every single person, whether it's me, whether it's you, whether it's your mother, your father, has problems in their life. Okay, every single day. And what you're actually looking for, like, and we might not call them problems, is a solution to a certain problem. Okay, and by actually finding out a solution and by consistently repeating that solution again and again, you start to automate what you do. Whether it be how you get up in the morning, whether it be even how you tie your shoe, how you shake hands, that becomes a habit. But it's actually a solution to a problem that you have. Okay, the only thing is everybody comes at you with different solutions. My solution might be slightly different to your solution, and that's what actually distinguishes and changes our habits. So potentially you might be stressed or tired after a long day at school. Okay, so to actually relieve that stress, you may watch TV, you may play computer games, you may go for a run, you may have a nap, you may plan your day for tomorrow, so the things that are building up causing you stress don't actually cause you stress because you have a plan for it. You may call a friend. You may, I don't know what you do, but every single person has different solutions to those problems. And over time, as you build this up, again, this becomes a habit. Really important for you to note, and as we mentioned to the kids in the class today, is that your original solution might not be the optimal one. If you come home every day after a long day of school and you reward yourself to get rid of that stress with a chocolate bar, well, like, a chocolate bar a day, like, is not the same. Like, it's an apple a day keeps the doctor away. So if you had a chocolate bar every day, I'm not saying a chocolate bar is bad, it might be fine, but that's going to give you a dramatically different outcome over a year versus if you decide to go for a run or you decide to read a book. Okay, so just noticing that you have this problem and you've had a solution to it and you've repeated this again and again, triggering an automatic response, which is now a habit. Okay, why are habits important? Okay, fundamentally you are, as we say all the time, what you repeatedly do. Okay, so you are what you do every single day. So what you repeatedly do has and will continue to do for the rest of your life form the person you have become, form the things you believe on a daily basis, and form the results that you enjoy. Okay, so the results that actually come about from what you do every single day. So obviously habits are massively important. If they actually fundamentally create who you are, they are extremely important. Everything you have today, everything you are, everything you stand for, everything you think, everything you believe is a sum of what has happened over the last 16, 17, 18, or however old you are, years of your life, of what you have done all these times, every single day, and it's accumulated. Like, and I mean that in terms of your schooling, your health, your confidence, literally the wardrobe that you have, like even the movies that you've watched, everything you have, the knowledge has come from what you've done every single day over the past. So if we can slightly improve these, we're actually going to arc ourselves or direct ourselves more towards an outcome that we've established in week 1 and then after that week 2. Okay, if you think about it, most people have quite similar goals. Okay, most people have similar goals. If you think about it, most people want to do well in the Leaving Cert. Okay, most people that go to the Olympics want to win a gold medal, but what actually distinguishes them, what separates the people who get the gold medal and the people that come 5th is what they have done every single day up to that point, is their habit, is their training to get to this one point. So if you think about it almost like training every single day to get this gold medal, what you do every single day and every action that you take is building you up to this ultimate outcome, which is today. Okay, now, why I think this is massively effective is because this is the thing that's ultimately going to change you. If you can change your habits, you're going to change whether you're an organized person, whether you're a runner, whether you're a jogger, or whether you're a studious student, or whatever you decide to do. You can fundamentally change who you are by changing how you act. On the next page, on page 4, it's a really, really powerful picture. Something that I actually look at in times when I'm actually asking myself, am I really arsed getting up, going to school, like going to the gym before school? Am I really arsed planning my day out? Like, I think that, okay, you know, sometimes you don't see a reward and you get a little bit upset with it. But this sentence here says, if you get 1% better at a skill every day, at the end of 1 year, you'll be 37 times better at that skill. So for example, if you put yourself in your maths, like, so your math, how good you are currently at maths, if you get 1% better every single day for a year, and you look back, the person you are in a year is 37 times better. Not 37% better, 37 times better. And that's a fact. That is literally maths right there. And if you don't like maths, if numbers aren't your thing, have a look at this diagram here. You can see at the start, over time, there's not that much improvement. But once the compounding interest starts to occur, you can start to see that you exponentially improve, and you start to look back and you're building good results and good results and good results and suddenly you look back and you're a completely different person. You're 37 times better. Imagine that over a lifetime. Okay, so that diagram for me always impacts on me when I kind of feel, listen, I don't want to do that thing that I've committed to do today, or I'm going to take today off. I always think, well, look how happy I'll be in a year's time when I am 37 times better at X or Y. Okay. Then on page 5, what we did in the class is we actually asked the students to go through, as we always do, things that they already do. So before we actually teach them very many things, we asked them to go through what good habits and bad habits do they already have. Before they stepped in the classroom, before you listen to this podcast, you might not even really thought, I have habits, good and bad. And now you're starting to see them in your life. So what we would have done there, and I implore you to stop the podcast, have a go at doing this here, just brainstorm, put a timer on your phone, let your pen flow, write down as many good habits you currently have as you can think of. Just keep going, just keep going. Don't even think about it. You don't have to show it to anybody else. You are determining what's a good habit. Not me, not Chris, nobody but you. Do the same with bad habits. Just let your pen flow. Pause this. I implore you to pause it right now, because the only way you can change where you are is if you see where you're at right now. That's why we always do this. What good habits and bad habits do you automatically have right now? Write that down. Okay, once you've done this, without any influence from us, from anybody else, what could you improve? What good habits could you make better? What bad habits could you turn into like less bad habits, or actually a good habit? Okay, what could you do in your personal opinion? Not doing something because I say is something like, not, if you don't want to get up early, you don't want to get up early. Not planning your day because you're planning your day. What ones do you want to improve? And then put a why behind it. Every single thing, as we say, every single week starts with a why. Don't just go to bed early because someone said it. Go to bed early because you fundamentally believe that will give you more energy, allow you to get up early, allow you to plan the day, allow you to go through the day well rested and as your best self. Okay, so again, I'd pause the tape here, look at the habits I've written above, and then I would go through what ones that I could improve without any input from us that you fundamentally are choosing by yourself. With most of this stuff, you have the power to actually do it. We're just pointing you in the right direction. Most of the stuff is already in you. Most of the stuff you could sit on the edge of your bed and ask yourself, what am I doing? What am I not doing? How can I do something better? Why am I doing something? You ask yourself those questions and you'll be completely fine. Then if you turn to page 6, we started talking about something called Keystone habits, because potentially at the end of that writing session, the 2 minutes might have not been enough. You might have 100 things, and that's very daunting. What do you pick? What do you do? Well, myself and Chris we've actually distilled into these things called Keystone habits that we think will be applicable to a student. Now, maybe only 2 of these work for you. Maybe you've got 3 different ones altogether. But a Keystone habit itself is a habit that automatically leads to other habits. It gives you a cluster of good habits. By doing one thing, it knocks down the dominoes of about 4 or 5 other things. It literally pulls everything together. So by enacting one habit, it actually ends up taking care of a lot of other ones almost automatically with way less effort actually expended on your part. We felt that these 3 are important for students that we see. So the first one is exercise. Okay, now we're always banging on about exercise, how we feel it's important, and we don't mean you have to go to the gym 7 days a week, or you have to run a marathon, or you have to swim the English Channel or anything like that. Okay, just think about it. I'll discuss how often in a second, but by exercising, that studies have proven give you a desire to eat better, to organise your eating. It gives you an impulse to I'm not going to start smoking, or I'm going to start giving it up, or I'm not going to take on certain substances that won't actually impact me in a positive way. Studies have shown that actually by exercising, people actually spend less on frivolous items, on items they don't need. They actually are, and there's many reasons behind this, have been seen to be less stressed. So by exercising, you're actually impacting your health. They're actually going to make you more organized. It's going to make you actually have better health habits. It's going to cause less stress, which is a massive problem for students. And it doesn't even have to be every single day. Studies have shown if you exercise once per week, Once per week, you start to get all these benefits. And obviously, all those benefits are pretty great. The next one is journaling. And we alluded to this last week when we were talking about morning routines. Okay, but by journaling, you start to notice patterns in your life, mistakes you're consistently making that you could really easily change. You start to notice improvements that you personally could make in your life or in your routine or in your day or in the way you act towards people. Simply by writing stuff down, it can actually affect who you are and how you're showing up to things. And that's really, really crucial. The last one is, and this is a really, really good one for us and a very good one for students for many reasons. But again, it's up to you. We have waking up early. Because if you wake up early, that gets you one thing that we just cannot buy, and that's time. And we've said that before. If you wake up early, you have more time to plan out this perfect day that you want, to organize yourself, which is going to give you less stress, to actually plan, organize, and make and cook and bring in, like to a lunchbox, good food, which is going to help you show up better. It gives you more time to actually hydrate in the morning, so you're not coming to school with your mind not working correct. But again, it gives you more time just to relax. You're not rushing out the door. You're not forgetting stuff. You're not stressed. You're showing up as your best self. Okay, so again, you could have different Keystone habits. For us, these are 3 that massively affect students that we see every single day. You might have a different one, but the whole idea is having a Keystone habit that automatically affects other things for you, so you're not trying to do 100 different things. On the next page, on page 7, we're on to how do habits work. And after I teach you this, Chris is going to teach you actually how you can affect these in your life, how you can change them. And it's hugely powerful. But we've taken something from James Clear again called the habit loop. And he talks about how any habit is a 4-step process, whether you know it or not. We have a cue, okay? And that cue is the trigger. It's the noticing of something. So it might be hearing the beep on your phone. It might be like in your head, thinking, oh, I have a chocolate bar in the fridge or something like that. It's a cue for something. And then a craving occurs, because every single thing you do, whether you know it or not, comes down to a feeling. It's something in your body to make you feel better. And that might not always be the case in the long run, but right now it's something that everything you do is just there to actually change the way you feel in this moment. So we have a cue, and your body elicits a craving, a want, a desire to change how you feel. It's not the actual habit, but it's the desire to change how you feel right now. And from that, you have a response. Okay, so this is the thing you actually do. This is the eating the chocolate bar. This is the, picking up your phone. This is like the action that you do. Like the craving itself is not the actual habit. Like if you think about it, like the craving is to get a feeling. Like no one wants, you don't get a feeling from just picking up a piece of plastic. But the same way you do when you get your phone. You get a craving of how picking that up and looking at it is going to make you feel in a few minutes time or in a few seconds time. Okay, nobody craves actually chewing on the actual the physical thing of a chocolate bar. It's that you're going to get that sweet taste in your mouth. You're going to get that burst of energy. Okay, so we've got cue, craving, response, the thing you actually do. And this can vary, as we've discussed already, and we will discuss. And then a reward. Okay, so this is the perceived reward you had when you were actually craving it, the thing that you actually like, what you get at the end. And this cue, craving, response, reward actually starts to trigger a neurological feedback loop, which just implants itself in your brain again and again and again. And once you keep doing it, as we know, the repetitions in that's when it becomes an automatic response. Okay, your mind learns and it adjusts to what actually has occurred. Okay, but the whole point of this is we've got all this behind us. We've got what a habit is. We've got how they work. We've got a few that we actually already currently have. How can we affect this? How can we change fundamentally who we are? How we're gonna actually get results in the end? How we're going to change our lives is what Chris is going to talk you through now.
Brilliant. Okay, so there's so much value in all of that. Jeez, I was in awe just listening to you there. It just flows out so naturally. But there's so much in there, so much valuable content for people to think about. And I suppose now that David's kind of explained to you what habits are, how they're created, and the science behind them. Now it's a case of how do we actually use that information to produce the results we want? Well, just kind of going over what kind of Dave said, on page 2 there is that quote which says, success is the product of daily habits, not once in a lifetime transformations. And that's by James Clear, someone you may never heard of. But he wrote a book called Atomic Habits, as we said. And Atomic Habits, I can tell you, is like a blueprint for producing the results that you want to do. And results are produced by your habits, okay? And we want you to think of habits like systems. Okay, habits are like systems you have to produce results. And you can have good systems and you can have bad systems, i.e. good habits and bad habits. And we want you to work on those habits, to work on those systems. Think about systems, just like Dave said, you have an Olympian, all Olympians have the same goal. They have the goal to win a gold medal. That's the goal, that's uniform. But why do some athletes win golds and most don't? Well, the reason is because the athletes that win the golds have better systems than the ones that don't. For example, Michael Phelps, he's won pretty much every race he's ever entered the Olympics in the last, 12 years. What's the reason? Well, he has a system for producing the results, okay? I remember when he announced kind of what his training regime was, people thought he was crazy. He was eating like, 5,000-6,000 calories a day. He was training 3 times a day, which was, 3 times what a normal swimmer was doing, and people thought he was mad. However, that system of habits produced the gold medal for him countless times, over and over again. So, question is, how do we work on your systems? How do we help you guys develop more good habits and stop doing bad ones? Well, there's kind of a 2-step process here. Number 1 is, and as Dave has done, it's to teach you how habits work. What are they and how do they work? Understand how habits are created. And on page 7, that habit loop is the science behind habit creation. Okay, and understanding that's very, very important. For a habit to be created, all 4 stages of that habit loop have to be in sync. Okay, the cue has to be set up right to ensure that you get the reward at the end of it. Okay, for example, you have to make sure that the reward you get satisfies the craving that you originally had. You have to make sure that the response you have to perform, the action you have to take, isn't too onerous, doesn't take too much energy, that doesn't make the reward worthwhile. For example, if you have the first 3 steps of the habit loop set up, you're triggered to do something by a cue, you have a craving to change how you feel, and you perform an action then, the response, but the reward doesn't actually give you what you want, that habit won't be repeated. Okay? So all 4 things have to be lined up in order for a habit to be created and to be sustained. Okay? So once we understand kind of how habits work, now it's a case of tricking the habit loop, which is what me and Dave want to talk to you about. It's about tricking this natural set of laws that exist in all human beings around habits. And there are 4 laws. The 4 laws, each of those laws relates to each section of the habit loop, right? So how do we trick ourselves into creating good and bad habits? Well, quite simple actually. It's not easy to do, but it's quite simple. So on page 9 there, we've got an exercise we want you to do, and it's around creating a good habit. We want you to think about this, right? And I want you, as well as having page 9 open, I want you to have page 7 open too. Page 7 open, because page 7 relates to each of the quadrants of creating a habit in the habit loop, right? And each law relates to one of those quadrants, right? So let's just say we want to create a good habit. For example, the example I have here on the page is how to drink more water. Okay, drinking water is so good for you. It's very, very important for brain function and a whole host of other things. A lot of people don't drink enough of it, right? So here is the example of drinking more water using the 4 laws of behaviour change. Now, what I'll actually use is, as an example, is when I was in college, right? I had loads of bad habits around going to lectures. I didn't enjoy them. I didn't feel I was getting much of a reward from them, so I didn't go. And the problem was, that bad habit meant that it was a big struggle for me when it came around to exams. So in order to counteract that, I had to develop a good habit of studying, okay? And that's a habit that every single Leaving Cert student needs to develop if they want to get the results they want to get, okay? So relating kind of this journey that I was on in college to become better at studying, to build that good habit, I followed these 4 laws. The first law, and write this down, it's in the cue section. It's make the cue obvious. So make it obvious. So write that down. So one thing I did was, when I was in college, I made studying obvious by having a designated place to study. I remember in college we found this room that the PhDs kind of had, but they weren't really using it. And myself and a group of lads who were all kind of in the same boat as me, struggling to go to lectures but wanted to do well, we kind of said to ourselves, okay, we're going to meet in that room, that designated place, at these specific times every single week, or each day even. And we made it so obvious that that's where we go to study, there are the times we go to study at, that it was so hard to miss. It was very, very easy to do. Whereas if you don't have somewhere to study, you kind of study here and there, or you don't know when to study, you kind of wait and see, when suits to study, you see when you have a bit of spare time, it's not that obvious and you're less likely to do it. Whereas if you have a designated place, It's very obvious where that is. And it's very obvious when you study. You've planned it out. And that's something we would have covered in the morning routines in the last module. That's the first law of starting a good habit. Make it obvious. Okay? The second law, and that relating to drinking more water, carry a bottle of water everywhere you go. And then you'll be triggered to drink more water. Simple as that. The second law then relates to the craving quadrant. Remember what the craving is? The craving is that feeling you want to, basically the desire you have to change how you feel about something. Okay, to feel better. Okay, that craving. Okay, now, whenever we start a new behavior, a new good habit, it's quite hard to kind of motivate yourself to crave studying or to crave eating an apple a day. Okay, but what you actually do is, it's a thing that we call, and write this in, it's called temptation bundling. Okay, so what we're trying to achieve here, we're trying to make the new habit something we actually crave, something we want. Okay, how do we do that? Well, we link it to something we already like doing. So we link it to something we already do and we enjoy doing, right? And for example, if you're drinking water, if you want to drink more water, basically do that while you're listening to your favorite podcast. Do that while you're watching the Kardashians. Do that while you are doing whatever it is you like, while you're playing Xbox, right? Whatever it is. Drink water while you're doing something you actually enjoy, and you won't even notice that you're doing it. Okay, so you link it together. What I did was, when I was in college, the group of lads that I hung around with, I was trying to study, I actually, like I'm kind of a social person, I like hanging out with people, and I don't really like being on my own, and when I was hanging out with those lads, I kind of got a bit of a buzz off that, and I enjoyed that. But the lads I was hanging out with also were lads that wanted to study hard, and they wanted to improve their grades, and they wanted to become people who studied often and regularly. So I was getting the kind of social aspect, out of hanging out with them, but also by hanging out with them, I was also bundling in studying as well. Bundling in studying, right? So the second law is make it attractive, right? So write in that, it's make it attractive, okay? So make whatever good habit you're trying to do attractive by linking it with something you already like doing, okay? That's the first two laws. The third law is the response law, right? So this is the third quadrant of the habit loop. The response, again, to reiterate, is the action you take to actually perform the habit, to get the reward, okay? And this is very, very crucial, this law. The third law is make it easy. Make it easy to perform the habit or to perform the response in the beginning, okay? Why is that? Because in order to build a habit, and to make it automatic, remember, habits are are behaviors that we do so often they become automatic. We do them without having to think, right? And the way we do that is through repetition, right? So if we make a habit very easy to perform at the start and make the response easy to perform, we're more likely to do it. And what I did was, when I started studying in college and I tried to motivate myself to study, I'd only study for like 20 minutes at a time. And then I'd take a break, go for a walk, whatever, chat with the lads, I'd just get some fresh air, and I'd then go back then and try and study for another 20 minutes, right? And by doing that, it made it easier to study because I was only studying in short intervals, didn't require a huge amount of willpower to focus for that amount of time, and it was easy to do. And as a result of that, because it was easy to do again and again and again. Whereas if I sit down and go, John, I'm going to study for 5 hours in a row, I'm not going to take a break, I'm going to lock myself in my room, and I'm going to put on noise-cancelling headphones, and I'm not going to speak to a soul for 5 straight hours. That is an extremely difficult thing to do at the start. And you are very unlikely, that's going to require a lot of willpower to do. And as we said before, willpower is a resource, you run out of it. So to sustain a repetitive habit of studying for 5 hours at a time is going to be very difficult. However, if you make it easy, short intervals of study, which are really easy to do at the start, what happens is the more you do that again and again and again and again, the repetition builds up and you don't even have to think about focusing, you just do it. And you can start studying for longer periods of time. How that would relate to drinking water, for example, would be like, if you want to drink more water, just start off by getting a water bottle and drink that one water bottle in a day. And that's it, okay? And then over time, start building up to drinking 2 of those water bottles in a day, and then to 3 of them, and then to 4 of them, right? Slowly build up so you get enough repetitions in that becomes a habit. And that's a really, really, really important part of building a habit, is making it easy at the start, the third law. The final law, the fourth law, is make it satisfying. Okay, make it satisfying. So write that in, right? And what's really, really hard when starting a new behavior is, or trying to develop a new habit, it requires you to do something new, requires you often to do something you're not used to doing. And anytime you're doing something new that's good for you, usually, almost in every single case, the results are delayed. You don't see the fruits of your labor straight away, okay? And that can be very demotivating, okay? You start going to the gym, you know, after one workout, you're not going to be a very fit person. Or if you want to do well in your leaving cert, you study once, you're not going to do amazing, you know? You have to do it slowly but surely over time, repeat it, okay? And the way to sustain, you know, the journey, the way to keep yourself coming back is to reward yourself for the new behaviour you're starting to do. And essentially what this means is, because you're not getting that instant gratification from doing it, you need to bribe yourself with an instant reward. And I remember when I was studying in college, it's not something I enjoyed doing, but what I did was I linked the act of studying with the prize at the end of it. And the prize for me was, I'm a bit of a coffee addict, I absolutely love it. Like a lot of people, I used to say, well, if I can study for X amount of intervals over Y time, then I'm gonna have a coffee at the end of that and go for a walk. And that was my reward. So I kind of bribed myself into performing those rituals of studying. And then, just like a habit, if you do it enough times, if you perform behaviour enough times, it becomes automatic and you don't even need the reward. You just do it without even thinking. So they're the 4 laws. The first one with the cue, make it obvious. Okay, make it so easy to see it that you're triggered to perform the habit. Okay, i.e. make your study area obvious, make your study timetable obvious. There's no question, this is where I study and this is when I study. Okay, and you're triggered to do it by those 2 things. The second law is related to the cravings, make it attractive, link it to something you already like doing. Okay, link the thing you're trying to do to something you already like. Third law is make it easy. Make it easy so at the start it's not hard to get those repetitions in, it's easy to perform the task. Okay, and the last one is make it satisfying. Link a reward to the action you're trying to do, the behaviour you're trying to develop, the habit you're trying to build. Reward yourself by bribing yourself effectively with something you enjoy. And hopefully that thing you're bribing yourself with is something positive. Okay, so now that we know how to create a good habit, how do we stop ourselves from performing bad habits? Well, this is really, really simple. On page 10, I want you to follow along here. How to stop doing a bad habit is basically the inversion of how to create a good habit. You basically do the opposite, okay, to what we just said. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, make it satisfying, right? That's for a good habit. You just do the total opposite for how to stop a bad habit, okay? So an example I have here of a bad habit is something that I do, everybody does, and students are particularly guilty of this, right? They say that the average student spends between 4 and 5 hours a day on social media. Now, social media is the kind of thing that it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere, okay? But spending 4 to 5 hours a day on social media is definitely not helping you achieve your goals of whatever they might be. One of them, I'm sure, is wanting to put your best foot forward in the leaving cert, okay? So that's kind of counterintuitive to spend 5 hours a day on social media, right? So what if one of our goals is to, or one of our habits we want to break is spending that much time on it? We want to spend, let's say, 2 hours less a day on social media, right? So that's the example we're going to use here to go through and explain the 4 laws of breaking a bad habit, okay? And just to reiterate here, 2 hours on social media a day, right? That's 730 hours a year on social media, right? The average Leaving Cert student spends between 700 and 900 hours studying for their entire Leaving Cert. Right? If you were to save 2 hours a day and by not going on social media, you would have all of those hours on top of your existing amount of hours for study. So an unbelievably powerful habit to break if you can do it. Right? So going through the laws, right? The first law is make it invisible. Remember the first law for creating a good habit, make it obvious? Do the opposite, make it invisible. Make it so you remove the cues of your bad habits from your environment, right? So how can you do this with social media? Well, something that I did was I just deleted the apps from my phone. Okay, now that's a pretty extreme thing to do. But what you can do is, and a little bit more subtle than this, you can start by just putting your phone away while you're studying, so you're not cued to check it. You're not triggered by it vibrating or lighting up. Okay. Another thing you can do that's probably even better than that again is just turn off notifications on your phone. You can have your phone out, build a bit of self-discipline, you don't look at it, but just turn off the notifications on your phone. So like your phone's not buzzing constantly saying you have a Snapchat or a WhatsApp or an Instagram message. Just turn off the notifications so you're not triggered. Because if you're not triggered, you won't be If you're not cued, you won't be triggered to perform the habit of checking your phone and spend time on social media and going down a rabbit hole for like 25 minutes. Okay, so that's the first one. Okay, is make your bad habit invisible. Okay, second law is to make it unattractive. So make the performing that bad habit unattractive to you. And this is probably the hardest part of the whole 4 laws for breaking a bad habit, because it requires the most discipline, right? And if you have to ask yourself, what are my goals? Well, one of my goals is to do better in the Leaving Cert, okay? Well, if you want to do better in your Leaving Cert, there are bad habits that are affecting that and preventing that from happening. And spending too much time on social media is one of those bad habits, right? So anytime you're cued to check social media, okay, pause and ask yourself, okay, is this really going to give me what I want at the end of the day? Okay, is this helping me achieve my goals for the Leaving Cert? Or is this helping me improve, my physical fitness? Okay, the answer is no. But if you write down all those reasons, and anytime you're kind of cued to check social media, and you go, okay, no, I'm going to stop here because I know that the craving I have isn't going to help me achieve my goals, right? And just try and stop yourself from doing it. And very clear as to framing, the negative impact of performing that bad habit, right? And that's likely to stop you doing it, okay? So that's the second law. And I said it's the most difficult, but requires that self-discipline. But it's having that frame of mind to kind of grab yourself, stop yourself from performing the task by having those strong reasons to not do it, because they're counterintuitive towards the goal you want to achieve. Okay? The third law is the opposite of the third law in the good habits, which is make it difficult, right? And if you can increase the amount of energy required to actually perform the bad habit, it's more likely that you won't do it. Okay, the more energy anything takes, the more difficult it is to do. We talked about willpower before in the second module of morning routines. Willpower is a resource, right? The amount of willpower you need to use up to do something, the more taxing it's going to be, the harder it is to do, right? So let's say with social media, if you just increase the amount of steps between you and checking social media, you are going to reduce the likelihood that you're even bothered to check it, okay? And the example that I gave kind of briefly earlier on is an extreme one, but it works very well. If you simply delete the apps from your phone, and the only way for you to check social media is to literally go on the App Store and install Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Every time you want to check it, the amount of steps it takes to actually go and check social media won't be worth it for you most of the time. And I think that's a really, really powerful thing. If you increase the amount of friction between you and getting the thing you want, which is checking that notification, it's more likely that you'll stop doing it. Okay, so just make it really hard for you to perform that bad habit. Okay, the fourth and final law is make the habit unsatisfying, right? So we talked about making a good habit satisfying by bribing yourself to want to do it, by giving yourself a reward like a coffee, right? Now, if you want to stop yourself doing a bad habit, you want to kind of associate the outcome of performing that habit with feeling bad, not feeling good. You want to associate it with feeling maybe guilty, or feeling, that, you shouldn't have done it. And a way you can do that is, let's say if you're checking social media 5 hours a day and you want to go down to 3 hours a day, and a friend of yours is the same, they got the same problem, the same bad habit, then say to each other, do you know what, how about we partner up here and we become accountability partners, right? And we're going to agree that we're going to spend 2 hours less every day on social media, and at the end of every school day, we're going to check what each person has done in terms of screen time on social media in the last 24 hours, and we're going to measure that, and we're going to have some kind of forfeit if you don't do it, and it's by building that kind of accountability into getting rid of a bad habit, it's going to increase the likelihood that you'll want to not do it, because you'll make the outcome unsatisfying. Because if you have to go to your mate and you've been 5 or 6 hours on social media, you're going to feel bad about letting them down. So you want to link kind of, an unsatisfying outcome to performing your bad habit, if that makes sense. And another thing you could do is link it to not doing as well in the Leaving Cert as you could. If you check social media 5 hours a day, it's going to impact how well you perform on social media. So link that as well to an unsatisfying outcome of performing, an unsatisfying reward for performing a bad habit. So they're the 4 laws, right, for creating a good habit and getting rid of a bad habit. And they're so powerful. They're really, really simple. They're difficult to actually maintain and implement. But if you can just understand them and start using them to your advantage by tricking the habit loop into making it so you can perform better habits and get rid of bad habits, it's a really, really powerful thing. Now, one last thing we want to finish up on here, it's on page 12, right? And it relates to it kind of concludes our whole kind of theory on habits here and on the workshop itself. And it is, if you want to achieve a result, if you want to get better at anything, it's those habits, the systems that you have to work on in order to do that. And the very difficult part about developing good habits is that it requires a behaviour change. It requires you to do something different, to do something you've never done before. And that often requires a lot of energy and a lot of willpower, right? And one of the reasons why people give up, like a lot of people set New Year's resolutions and after about 2 weeks, they kind of give up on them. The reason they give up, right, and I want you to write this down, the reason why most people give up on starting a new behaviour is the outcome of good habits often lags behind your expectation of where you want your performance to be. So when you start off doing a new behaviour, you kind of feel like you should be getting results straight away, and you don't. It takes time. And our brains as humans are pre-programmed to prioritise rewards that are immediate and instant over rewards that are delayed. So if we can get something now and feel good now and get a buzz now, we want it. We don't want to wait, a month or 2 months in order to get a reward. We want it now, okay? And the reason for that is we live in a world of instant gratification, which is making the problem even worse. If you want to watch a movie, you don't have to go to the cinema. You just instant Netflix. There I go. If you want to get some item of clothing, you go on ASOS, whatever, get it straight away. You want to get a book, you go on Amazon. Literally comes the next day. Everything is instant. And as a result of that, it makes it difficult to start new behaviours which aren't instant, right? So what we'd ask you to do is, instead of focusing on, I want to do well in the Leaving Cert. Instead of focusing on just, doing well in the Leaving Cert, we want you instead focus on the behaviour required to do well in the Leaving Cert, right? Just focus on the behaviour, okay? And what does that really mean? Well, it means that, here's an example actually. Let's say you're a really messy person and your room's always messy and you set a goal for yourself to clean your room. Now the odds are, it's not that hard to clean your room, you probably clean it. But unless you work on the system that created that messy room in the first place, your room's going to likely get messy again. So what you need to do is you need to focus on a system that's going to keep your room clean consistently, right? And if you focus, instead of just, I want to do great in the Leaving Cert, well, focus on becoming the type of student who puts their best foot forward in everything they do. Focus on becoming, focus on eliciting the behaviour required to do well in the Leaving Cert. Now, just to kind of say here, doing well in the Leaving Cert isn't 625 points. Doing well in the Leaving Cert is doing as well as you can possibly do. And in order to do that, you need to focus on the behaviour required to do that. For example, focus on being the type of student who's always on time for school. Focus on being the type of student who always does their homework. Focus on being the type of student who studies for tests. Focus on being the type of student who, when they get a test back from their teacher, they don't just put it away in their bag. No, they go through it and they see what they didn't get. Focus, what they didn't understand, and then they go and work on those areas. Focus on being the type of student who plans their day, who plans their study time, who sets, targets for themselves and then sticks to them. If you focus on that type of behaviour, rather than trying to focus immediately on the rewards, what happens is that behaviour, if you do it consistently over time, you repeat that behaviour over time, what's going to happen is, you can see in the diagram there, the rewards at the start, which are represented by the curved line there, you don't see much as time, at the start of time there, but as time goes on, those rewards grow exponentially, okay? And if you can just focus on the behaviour rather than just getting results, you are going to have exponential growth in results, and the results come automatically. So that's really concluding the module we have here on habits. As Dave said, he started off talking about what habits were. It's behaviours that are repeated enough times that they become automatic. Then we talked to you about how they work and how the science behind the habit loops. You've got those 4 quadrants. So you've a cue, you've got a craving, you've got a response to the craving, and then you've got ultimately the reward that you're performing the habit to achieve. And then finally, we've got those 4 laws. And if you can implement those 4 laws, you are going to see profound changes in how you get on in the Leaving Cert and in your life in general. They're so valuable. They're like the silver bullet of producing results. It will help you build those strong systems that can produce positive results on a consistent basis. And just concluding there, the homework that we want you to do, we want you to go away and do 2 things. Number 1 is create a plan. On page 13 of the notes there, create a plan for yourself to build a good habit using the 4 laws that we've gone through, okay? And put a plan in place. We also then want you to do the same for stopping a bad habit on page 14. Put a plan in place to stop you doing whatever bad habit you feel you want to work on. And use those 4 laws. They're very, very powerful and they work.
Okay, guys, so there we have it. You've got your homework. We've hit the 3 goals. We understand what habits are, the habit loop. We're able to actually affect the change in our life. So make sure you go do it. Don't just listen to this. Make sure you go do it. That's what's going to enact to change it. So, Chris, absolutely fantastic to get the first 3 under our belt. I'm looking forward to having our little fireside chat, our little plant-side chat.
Yeah,
I've got a few hard questions for you about habits and cool. For the rest of you guys, tune in next week for module 4 or 5 in our personal development club. Thank you.
Cheers.